Look up in the sky. It's a bird. It's a plane.
This is Jason J. Lewis, the voice of Superman on Justice League Action. This is Mark Wade, writer of Superman Birthright. You're listening to the Krypton Report.
Part of the Press Play Podcast Network.
Look up in the sky.
As we dive into the Ruby Spears cartoons recently, we've had some run-in-the-mill issues with them. One, because they were removed from Tubi, and then the copy that I have, James wasn't able to access right away. So we will be getting there. But I wanted to go down with some trivia things that are interesting about the Ruby Spears. I learned some things from reading Ed Gross's book, Voices from Krypton, which was great, with his interviews from Superman himself, Mr. Bo Black. But let's just take a quick trip down some trivia here. The series is the first other media adaptation of Superman that takes place after John Byrne's introduction with the post-crisis relaunch. So there's no more Superboy. Lex is a villainous business owner with kryptonite ring to ward off Superman. So that's something to think about. We've talked before about how Lois and Clark, The New Adventures of Superman, was the first live-action post-crisis, but this is the first Superman post-crisis period. When Wonder Woman does appear, her comic book is based off George Perez's design. This includes her flying under her own power rather than the invisible jet. That is, once again, the reboot of Wonder Woman. The intro theme is an edited version of John Williams' theme, which we've talked about, being where it seems like everybody kind of stole a little bit from Williams. The narrator tells the story of Superman at the beginning of the show. Although a different cadence, it's the same words during the opening of The New Adventures of Superman, 1966. The narrators sound just like the original. Ruby Spears was acquired by Warner Brothers while Superman was in production and was finished under Hanna-Barbera's roof, which is so interesting because I don't know all the history, but Ruby and Spears helped co-create Scooby-Doo. They left Hanna-Barbera to do their own thing. Primary animation for Superman was handled by Toei, who is, for most of the decade, was primary partner with Marvel, having helped produce Spider-Man, Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends, X-Men, Pride of the X-Men. Additionally, they animated the initial Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles miniseries, so they produced work for the three biggest comic book properties owners of the 80s. Plastic Man and Superman were not the only pre-existing superheroes Ruby Spears thought to adapt. Jack Kirby helped produce a pitch to make a Thor animated series in 1981. When Toy Biz released the DC Comics superhero toy line in 1989, its depiction of Lex Luthor was heavily influenced by the appearance of the character in the Ruby Spears Superman series. So that's some cool trivia about Ruby Spears. It is interesting how it is the forgotten series. There's only 13 episodes, and it's an adventure in its own.
We're going to press pause and hear a few words from our other podcasts on Press Play Podcast Network.
Hello, Brooks here with the Books with Brooks monthly book club podcast. Here's how Books with Brooks works. We read one book a month, and then we talk about it. Classics like Stephen King's The Shining, debut novels like We Are the Brennans by Tracy Lang, and tons of other compelling, life-changing stories, one book and 1 month at a time. So come read along with us, and then listen in.
All right, so some of you know I've been rewatching Flash, and I know this is part of Flash Week, and I'm just throwing this out there because it's, random. But I think I've kind of figured out where the Flash series really fell apart. It starts in season 4. I noticed that's Eric Wallace joined as a writer, and season 4 is still good. I think the DeVoe stuff is cool and a good change in pace, but Barry just starts making some dumb choices, and they really make his character just seem awkward at times. And there's some stuff that borderlines more camp instead of just humor. So this is definitely the seeds of where it starts to fall apart. And as I said, my goal is to do a rewatch up to season 6 through the summer, and we'll see. But 4 is 3 had some moments you could see some extra melodrama, but 4 is where you really start to see that there's a shift. So that's my thought. Here's a flash update. As I'm making my way towards the end of season 4 of The Flash, I will say that it is season 4 where the show really starts to come undone. DeVoe starts out great, but they speed through his story quickly, and then by the time they get to where he's body jumping, it just feels cheesy. The menace and the calculations and the intelligence that the original actor had as DeVoe is all gone by these other people that he jumps into. And this is where I feel like they start getting into crazy, trying to make Iris awesome. And this is where things get goofy and cheesy. But also they can't hold a villain for long. Much like in the next season, when Cicada comes, it starts off great. But then they do Cicada version 2. And that's what I feel like they're doing with DeVoe here. Is that DeVoe starts great. And then they're like, oh, we're going to do this. And they start having all these other versions of like DeVoe. And it's losing its power of a show.
Before we start this episode of Krypton Report, I want to take a moment and just give a shout out here to our Patreon. I know what you're thinking. Gosh, everyone's asking for money, and I get it. But our Patreon is only $1. $1 a month. It helps us keep the podcast going. And what we do is we try to find interesting shows and topics and whatever we want to talk about. We've done, as of this little thing, our last recordings were on the Scream series. Brian and Tyler, that's me, do our own show where we record in the car, and it's kind of funny. And we talk about pop culture or whatever is going on. We also have the Supernatural podcast we've been reworking. It's taken some time just because of life. But we do movie commentaries as well. It's something that James and I have done, what we used to do on the main show that we've started doing here. So for $1 a month on our Patreon, you can get those shows. There's at least 4 a month. Also, there's my movie pitch show that I do. But also, what we want is if you're a Patreon, you can come on. You can come on the main show if you want. Or if there's something you want to come on and talk about, we can do it as a Patreon special. So all I want is for $1 a month, think about chipping in, joining our Patreon, and you have a voice to be a part of things. Follow the link in the link tree or in the show notes below, patreon.com/KryptonReport.
So as of this recording, it's Superman Day. Happy Superman Day. If you haven't checked out our live video that became a podcast, it's a fun experience of just review and celebrating Superman Day. And I'm driving around here. Solomon's asleep in the back. We had to run out to the store real quick. And I'm looking at cornfields as I'm driving. Sun's out here in Ohio. And I got thinking about some things. Superman Legacy. Now, recently, I watched Man of Steel for the 10th anniversary. And then the next day I watched Superman Returns with my wife because she picked that movie to watch on our Superman Day early morning, which would be today. So it got me thinking, like, Superman Legacy with James Gunn. I know he'll put his own spin on it, right? But at the same time, I feel like the film we're going to get is kind of this, you know, I say that Tyler Hoechlin is very much a Superman that feels like the best of all versions. And I think we're going to take that for Superman Legacy and expand upon it. You know, every time there's like a superhero movie or whatever, there's always like a take on the character, you know. And Superman Legacy, I feel, is going to be like that idea of a take and tone it down and make it kind of a pure best of Superman. One that has story and heart, but also is what fans want. Not kind of like, well, our version is we're going to basically do the Richard Donner movies. Well, our version is, what if Superman was an alien, first invasion, more modern, grounded Superman? Are either of those wrong? That's a debate. But what I'm very interested in is just like this idea that he needs to hit it out of the park. Both, I think, for the character, for the studio, for Warner. Like, so they need something that when you see it says Superman, and hits all the boxes. So I think we're going to get a very neoclassical film. Just enough of each version, with plenty of action, heart, and everything. Because I really feel like if you were to blend Superman Returns and Superman Man of Steel, you'd have the perfect Superman film. Yes, it's not Superman Man of Steel, but you know what I mean. I'm driving and thinking, people. And I feel like that's what Gunn's going to do. And I don't want to say he's playing it safe, but I feel like he's playing it true to the character that the greater conscious knows, understands, and connects with. So we'll have a very, that's it film. And we don't know who's tested or casted yet, but like I saw somebody post about David Cornsweet, whatever his name is, the dude who I watched X just to see him act in, or not X, Pearl, about how he looks like Tom Welling blended with Henry Cavill. And I got thinking, kind of does, but does it make him perfect for the character when you're trying to find someone that people look at and say, that's Superman, and it's a blend of two Supermen? Okay? It's like, if we go back, Dean Cain as Superman, it's one of those I can see it, but when you watch him act, he brings forth certain elements to the character. And more important, Tyler, especially, in Superman Lois, he rocks a little bit more of the gruff and the beard compared to his, looks like he got waxed, manicured, first appearance in Supergirl. He is a great Superman when it comes to the acting, but, when you look at him, okay. But his acting does a great job. So my thought is, if you're going for something where it's that looks like Superman, and it makes kind of everybody happy, instead of going for, this is our take on the character, much like what Nicolas Cage would have been as Superman, that's kind of not playing it safe. It's playing it daring, where it might work, but I feel like after, the reboot, we're on our technically fourth film reboot, or fifth if you count Superman and the Mole Man. I don't count the serials because they weren't really movies, but just a thought. I mean, I could be totally wrong. I did listen to his podcast today with Michael Rosenbaum, and he did say take in his thing, but like I said, I think that it might be a little different than what a lot of us are thinking. But yeah, we'll see what's up. And then, of course, for the casting of Lois Lane, Rachel, I can't remember her last name, from The Marvelous Miss Maisel, was in that same post about looks too perfect. And once again, I watched the pilot of that show, and I plan to watch some more because I found it entertaining and her fun. Once again, that might be your safe bet. People who generally look like the characters and do it, and you play it real close. I mean, we all know Superman fandom in a lot of ways is a bunch of gatekeepers. And I mean, no offense to the people who are obsessed with Christopher Reeve films, but there is this stigma that for a lot of people, that's Superman, nothing else is. And they can't get over it. There are people who claim to be Superman fans, but they're really Christopher Reeve, Richard Donner Superman, the movie fans. And to them, that's everything, and that is Superman, that is all there is. And it's sad because they're gatekeeping, trying to keep a character in a box. When in the comics, the character has grown and is what it is outside of that box. So it's very sad that we deal with that. And that kind of plays into my consciousness where Gunn may play it with a very pure intent to build a Superman that everybody likes, sees, and everything's, classic. But at the same time, Neo, and like I said, it's a fine line, but I feel like we'll see a lot of things return to the core of the character and not be so much of an experiment and differences. It'll be just kind of what we need. And I could be completely wrong. I mean, that is up there, but it's just a feeling that I get. and we will see how that plays out.
If you are like Tyler and James and can't get enough super talk, check out these other podcasts. Digging for Kryptonite, Supergirl Radio, The Last Sons of Krypton, the Superboy Legacy Podcast, All-Star Superfans, Superman the Animated Podcast, The Aspiring Kryptonians, Always Hold On to Smallville, The Geek of Steel, and Truth, Justice, and Hope.
Remember to check out Krypton Report on all social media platforms. Go to linktree.com/Krypton Report. You find all of our report.
This is Dan Jurgens, and if you want to have a good time, keep listening to the Krypton Report.
Welcome to the Krypton Report podcast. I'm your host, Tyler, the Superman of Blue, the Man of Tomorrow, and with me is the Superman of Red, the Man of Steel, the great and powerful James.
Hey.
What's up, man?
Oh, just taking it one day at a time these days.
Yeah, feels like it. Feels like it, all kinds of stuff going on.
Oh, yeah. All kinds of stuff. So, sadly, I could not make the Man of Steel watch along. So.
Yeah, we had to do some tweaks and had a nice little crossover. So that was fun. With nerd culture. So that was a good time.
Right. I'm kind of going to put that and listen to that and watch along with it. I've seen Man of Steel so many times,
Yeah.
It's just another way of watching it.
I've done, there's been times where I've done these, listen to commentaries of stuff that I know this well enough. I don't need to watch along to enjoy it. I know what's going to happen. So I've just, listened to it. Which is always interesting too, because you're like, yeah, of course that's what's happening. Yeah. So, but hey, it's been a while since we've actually chatted. As of this recording, where it is Tuesday the 13th, the day after Superman. So happy belated Superman Day, James, to you vocally. We've talked, of course, yesterday on chat, but happy Superman Day there.
Yes, and you as well. You had a busy Superman Day.
Yes, I did. Also, had an interesting discussion with Jania the Great and Powerful, where she talked about it was interesting because we're sitting there and we're talking about stuff, and she was like, you know what? I made Kate Bosworth better than Amy Adams. And I was like, what? And then she was talking about it, and I was kind of like, wow. I can see some rationale there, Jania. So it became an interesting discussion because we watched Superman Returns impromptu. So I was like, I want to watch one. She's like, let's watch that one. I haven't seen it in a very long time. She'd seen bits and pieces, but ever watching it, she hadn't for a long time. So I was like, okay, cool. So that was neat. It was neat. Like I said, a lot of different things kind of just yesterday was pretty cool. So, but we had a wonderful gift, and we'll get into our notes here, some news to go over. Let's start with the best. The best. Gotham Knights has been canceled.
Yeah.
I mean,
I think it's, I don't know that it's the best because Gotham Knight got canceled or because of the flip side to that. I think that's the best.
Well, it's just funny because we said it all along. We're I don't think this is going to make it past, and I watched some of it, and it's I liked the world that they were building, and I was interested in Misha Collins as Harvey Dent. I'm I love the Court of Owls, so I feel they got me there. But then I was just but dang, do I not care for any of these characters? Turner. And then it was and it's canceled. I was oh, okay. And then as soon as they said it's going to be between, excuse me, between Gotham Knights and Superman and Lois, I was oh, not going to watch Gotham Knights anymore. Not going to give you my views. So stop that pretty quick. But it has been canceled. So goodbye, Gotham Knights. But we got some great and wonderful news on Superman Day. And what's funny is if you want to get my on time reaction, I was actually recording with Anthony Desiato for an upcoming episode you'll hear in 2 weeks of the next adventures of Superman, where we review the George Reeves show when it broke, and we actually spent a moment talking about it in there. So we're like, this will be old news, but excuse me, by the time this airs. But here we are live. But what is that wonderful news, James?
The Superman and Lois news?
Yes.
Yeah, that's got renewed for season 4. 10 episodes.
10 episodes.
10 episodes in season 4.
They keep reducing the episodes. And I'm like, all right. But it's going to have some budget cuts and some loss in cast. Now, Anthony and I had some predictions that we ran by, but today we learned that one of the Sam Lane will no longer be a full-time cast member or in the show at all for season 4. But we will be getting season 4.
Yeah. I mean, I think that it should be a little more. I mean, it's very family focused. Depending on how this season wraps up. I mean, Sam isn't the primary focus. He's even some of his training with Jordan has even been off screen and behind the scenes.
Yeah.
So
the sad part,
he's already had less to do, as it were.
Yeah, the sad part that I said was, as a writer, I think the easiest thing that would be most natural to do would be to remove Natasha and John Irons. There's been a couple episodes of the season they weren't around. They're the most logical people that you could take out of the equation without it feeling very forced. I heard some rumbling from people today. I couldn't find a source that the show's going to be more Metropolis set for season 4. So that could be a way of removing some cast. And maybe it's cheaper. Would be cheaper to film in Metropolis than how they are now. So I don't know. I'm interested to see. Also interested to see when production and stuff would start. I mean, we still have the writer's strike going on, so it could be, I mean, we would suspect that it would be, the January, February, but it could be a March or something of next year. Till we see it,
Yeah. Everything that would be going into a pre-production or that was in a writing stage, or even shows that right as the series is being produced are being affected by the writer's strike.
So it's great news that it's coming. It's just now it's how long will it be? I mean, it could be late fall of next year, So we'll just wait and see. But this was interesting. So as we know, Mortal Kombat 1/Mortal Kombat 12 will be released here soon. And it says the next thing that NetherRealm Studio is going to start working on is Injustice 3. So that's pretty exciting.
Yeah. Hopefully they have a good hopefully they have a good story about, in mind for where they want to continue that, because, DC has been on that Injustice train. Every time they do a new game, they do comics. They even did the Injustice versus Masters of the Universe crossover comic based on the alternate ending of Injustice 2.
Well, I mean, that could be an interesting sequel based off the alternate ending, Injustice has just become this strong. I would almost say it's become more than what the Arkham games were. I don't know. They're both kind of there with their own like universe, and maybe because Arkham games just Batman, we haven't really got anything in that for a while. But with Injustice, it's like it's a whole DC universe. It feels like it just keeps finding its way to resurface. Also, because I mean, Injustice has become into main continuity, so that means that I bet John Kent would be a playable character in the game. It'd be cool if there was an Ultraman skin.
Haha.
So, yeah, I'm just
Get Electric Blue John.
Yeah. So I think, you know, that's the one thing I was unhappy with Injustice 2 was Injustice 1 did so many alternate skins that you could just buy or download. And for some reason, I've never been able to get my Flash New 52 skin back.
Yeah. Injustice 2, they had a lot of costumes you could get, more or less actually build. They had a lot of variations, a lot of versions of different things. I think like just I don't know concepts, a bunch of different concepts done for various different suits, but you could actually but to get them, you know, you had to play the game. You had to do like the different challenges they had. You had to do the weekly like internet fighting challenges and things. To be able to earn those to build your uniform.
Yeah, it was
your fighting suit.
Yeah. So I don't know. I just was not very happy with like how that all kind of played out, and the fact they just kept updating the mobile version and didn't like give a crap about the actual console version. And I did not like playing the mobile version.
No, me neither. It was very just touch. You just touch the screen.
Yeah.
And it played out.
So
it's almost turn-based.
Yeah. I did not enjoy it. But I would like a good Injustice. You know,
in the mobile game, it was easier for them to upload the skins, I think. Yeah. So that's why skins were really popular in that version.
Yeah, I mean, they're still up doing it, you know?
Yeah.
But what's crazy to think about is like Injustice.
I haven't played Injustice so long on mobile.
I haven't either. I think Solomon might have. But like, think about this. Injustice 1 was for PlayStation 3. And whatever the Xbox equivalent was, 360 maybe at the time. Was it on 360? But then Injustice 2...
It was, yeah, Injustice 1 was on 360.
Okay, so then Injustice 2 is PlayStation 4.
Xbox and Xbox One.
Yeah. Okay, Mortal Kombat vs. DC was on PS3 and Xbox 360.
Mm-hmm.
But then now, it's just kind of interesting that with the Xbox One and PlayStation 4 era, we got Mortal Kombat X and Mortal Kombat 11. And now we're going to jump to, you know, new gen games, and we'll get Mortal Kombat 112. That's what I'm calling it.
And, 112.
And Injustice 3, you know what I'm saying? And you know the scary part is we'll probably both be over 40 by the time Injustice 3 comes.
Oh, goodness gracious.
I know. I mean, at the rate that the Suicide Squad killed the Justice League, well, we might be over 40 by then, too. We still got some time, but damn.
Now they keep pushing that back.
Yeah. Speaking of push back, the Batman has moved to June 24th, 2027. 2020.
Wasn't it 2025?
I think so. That's what I thought it was. And I'm just like, dear God. I'm like, as much as I've been thrilled, like the idea of like this 2 Batman films, you know what I'm saying? Like the dark version and then like whatever the Brave and the Bold becomes. I'm like, holy crap. Because I remember saying something to Solomon about he'd be like 10 years old and go to see it and all this. Or like 11. I mean, was it 2025 or was it 2026? because it came out last year in 2022. And 2025 is going to be 3 years. Now it's like 5 years. I'm just like, dear God, why?
Right.
Because I'm like, by that time, will we care for the sequel to the... I mean, that 4-year time period seemed like it was a long period of time. And from The Dark Knight to when The Dark Knight Rises come, we got like the first chapter of the MCU. You know?
Right.
Yeah,
I don't really even know. I mean, I know they have the Penguin coming on Max, but that's not going to fill... You can do another season or 2 of that friggin' show before you put out another movie.
And putting it in June, I'm like, that doesn't feel right. So I don't know. We'll see if it moves again, but I'm just like, holy cow, like it already... Think about this, like, when was it originally supposed to come out? 2021? Like early 2021? And then it was like October of 2021, and then it was moved to spring of 2022. Yeah, that sounds right. So because of COVID, how much that movie was reshuffled and then released, and then now, like 5 years later, we're gonna get the sequel. I mean, we're used to like a 2-year turnaround. Like even with Marvel, they have their characters pop up in other stuff to kind of bide time, or they appear in like another film before. Like, I mean, the Guardians, like you look at, Guardians 2 versus Guardians 3. Well, you had Infinity War and Avengers Endgame. You know, they appeared in, and then they appeared in Thor. So you didn't really feel like you had really lost them. Ant-Man, same kind of thing. So I'm just
the Batman 2's release date was October 3rd, 2025.
Yeah. So that's a year and a half. Why? Like, you could make a whole nother movie, and you can't tell me it's
more than a year and a half.
Well, yeah, I'm not doing the exact math. I ain't that fast. But you know what I'm saying? Like, you could do a whole nother movie in between there, and it makes me wonder, will we actually get the Batman sequel? Like, I'm just saying that. Like, I feel like it did well, but it's the perfect movie to continue a Batman series with while doing this secondary Batman series. So, but I'm just like, dear Lord, by that time, like, dude, I'll be 42. Solomon will be 12. I'm like, Sayla will be 10. I'm like, dang it, man. Like, you know, your cast is going to be aging, so you have to factor that into, like, your story somehow. Like, I'm just like, why? But
I don't get it. Maybe the idea is they can move it up if necessary. It was already going to be affected by the writer's strike. Honestly, I don't even know, because it's over 2 years from now. It's not going to require over a year's worth of post-production.
Right.
It's over 2 years from now was that initial date.
Yeah, and they were supposed to start filming in the fall.
Yeah. So, I mean, that would still put them at over a year for post-production. Like, I don't get what the... I'm not sure what the idea or the scope or scale they're trying to do.
Unless, I mean, I say this, but I have no knowledge. And I really have no knowledge or anything why this even happened. Like, I feel like it came out of very left field. They're gonna film like the Batman 2 and Batman 3 back to back or something, and then release it 2027, like 2028 or something.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? Just to be like, here it is, done and over with kind of thing. If they announced that, then I'm like, okay, but still, dude, that's 5 years.
Yeah, 5 years to put 2 movies together.
But even if it's just the one, 5 years. like how many your fans are going to change, your views are going to change. I mean, yes, Avatar 2 came out and it's been over a decade, but with the idea that you have Batman's a character is constantly being reinvented and redone, we're already going to have another version of Batman on screen before the Batman 2. I don't know, man. It's kind of weird because I do want the Batman 2 because I am excited.
Well, so the idea. So one thing I'm considering right now is DC has this year, the rest of this year's worth of slate of movies, as well as maybe some things that were in pre-production prior to this. So, like, are they going to be affected as much because they would be moving into pre-production on a lot of these things post this writer strike as it is, where a lot of these productions, say like Marvel, we got the news of all those delays on all of that stuff that would be in pre-production now for them.
Yeah.
Movies that would be coming out, what is it, next year? Pushed back?
Yeah, I mean, they moved their Avengers movies back an entire year, so it's got to be a writer strike thing, but with Marvel,
like at this point,
sense.
DC's kind of got like some things coming out, and other things are going to get pushed back hard. I wonder how much it's going to affect the upcoming slate that we're looking at.
I don't know if it. I mean, the thing with Marvel,
I don't know if it will.
Everything's so interconnected. Like when you listen to them talk about the COVID and like how they had to change things and Doctor Strange had to be rewritten and they had to change some things in Spider-Man because of what could film when, because they had thrown off their whole slate and everything. They're so tightly interconnected that they have to shift one thing. They have to start shifting everything because they have to have it in a certain order. The Batman can come out at any time, you know?
Yeah. But also, the Batman wasn't Avatar.
Yeah. Oh, I know.
Like, are people going to be clamoring to see the Batman? I mean, people are going to go see the Batman Part 2, but
right.
Are people going to be clamoring to see the Batman like they would be for Avatar? Because that is a spectacle.
Yeah, I mean, Avatar.
And just kind of don't bet against James Cameron. That's kind of the way it goes.
Was it 2031 now? Is going to be Avatar 5.
Wow.
Is that what they said today? I'll be 46.
I heard that it got pushed back. I did not. I heard that the Avatar, some of the Avatar sequels got pushed back.
I'll be.
But I didn't see any dates.
It's all maybe like 16, right? Yeah. Right. Yeah. That's ridiculous. But anyways, that just kind of threw me. It's kind of a bummer because I just hope that the film doesn't get lost and kind of forgotten. You know, with everything going on, like it does still get the attention that, because we are going to get this Batman Brave and the Bold at some point. So maybe they're going to move that up or something. I don't know. But we're just going to take it as we can. Okay. So as of today, I listened to Michael Rosenbaum's Inside You with James Gunn. There's some interesting things he says. Just listening to talk's cool. I'm not going to dissect some of those other smaller things he said because it could just be him playing coy. But he did mention that Blue Beetle is the first character of the DCU. But Superman is the first film big launch of his DCU. And what that just tells me is that Blue Beetle, they enjoy, and it just doesn't connect so that they can use it in their new DC cinematic universe. That's all that really tells me. You know, there's nothing in it that's going to be contradictory, but
yeah, that sets it anywhere specifically before the Flash.
Yeah.
Or connected to anything that came before.
So, and the other thing that James Gunn said that is after he's done with Superman, it'll be Peacemaker season 2. He'll go right into Peacemaker season 2. And that makes me wonder, like, after Superman is filmed and in post-production, he'll be, prepping Peacemaker season 2, or will it be like he'll film them closer, or has he already written Peacemaker season 2? But all we know is probably sometime in 2025, 2026, maybe we'll get Peacemaker season 2.
Yeah.
But we have the Waller series, which is going to feature a lot of the Peacemaker characters.
That was said, yes.
So that's kind of like a 2.5, you know?
Right. Did you hear the question about crypto?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like that's why I'm saying I'm not taking any of that and dissecting it.
Well, yeah, I'm not. It's
just
just funny because he gave him a coy look, and then he said that came from
a conversation with Chris
a public conversation with Chris Pratt, and he did call it scooper news. So I don't know.
Yeah, and then he also like pointed out like did I say there would be a Lex Luthor?
Yeah.
So I'm just like, okay, we'll just wait and see. Like that stuff to me is kind of like coy. Like, we'll see what he's kind of playing at. You know, he's also just messing with Rosenbaum because it's just funny to hear Rosenbaum get messed with.
Yeah.
And then the last thing is we got the Justice League War World trailer with a release date of July 25th. Now, this was kind of shocking that it's going to be
happy birthday to me.
Happy birthday, James. I was kind of shocked that it's going to be rated R.
Hasn't been a rated R since Dark Justice League Dark Apocalypse War.
In a continuity, yeah.
Yeah, or in this continuity.
So, and the trailer was not what I expected. It looks
Me
like
either.
It really threw me because the whole thing starts and we see our characters, our Justice Leaguers, excuse me, and
Our Trinity.
Yeah, and we haven't met this Wonder Woman yet. Okay, might you remember? And they're like in completely different worlds. Also, they're fighting and doing their own.
Yeah, so it appears that Wonder Woman is in a Wild West type world where she comes into contact with Jonah Hex.
Yeah.
Clark is in a noir type world. Like there's some old school car chases and things happening. It's all black and white, and the way the hair is slicked and done, it's kind of very noir. Set piece, and I mean Batman almost looks like a barbarian.
Yeah.
In his getup, you know, very little armor but fighting with a sword and stuff. It looks almost barbarian, like in a swords and Conan world type of way.
And then at the very end we get the Mongol tease that they're on World. So weird. Very weird.
Not what I was expecting at all.
I mean, yeah. So we will watch that, review that, and we'll add that to our July list.
Yeah. I almost picked up Ruby today.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
If you want to watch that and record in your own episode of you reviewing it, go ahead.
I was considering it.
I'll be like, this is the Krypton Report with just James. Enjoy.
Right. I need to buy the Doom That Came to Gotham. I don't have that.
I feel like that's going to be like a year.
This one.
That might be like a yearly rewatch, like in September. Pair that with Gotham by Gaslight.
Yeah, you could throw those both on for Scarathon. I think they fit right in there.
This year we're going to review The Batman vs. Dracula in like October, I think.
Ah, cool.
So, yeah, part of our own monster scary thing. And we were going to review an episode of Superboy, but Superboy has left Tubi. Tubi, our main man, because, what was it, like 2 episodes ago, James? We said we made a rule that if it's on Tubi, we're going to review it and immediately so that we can get through something. Well, Superboy has left Tubi.
Yeah. We're going to have to scour Tubi for anything else, DC.
Yeah. So, thanks, Tubi. But Anthony and
it's been there for quite a while.
Yeah, but the thing is, like, some things will leave one streamer to go to another. but it didn't go anywhere else.
Yeah.
You know, it's like it just went off streaming, like boom, done, peace. So it's kind of a bummer. Just a plug, like we are still doing Flash Week by the time when this drops. So check those episodes out. 1 a day Flash episodes. We had our Superman Day special. You can check out the video on YouTube or the audio. And just plugging some of the stuff we've done. It's been a very busy month here at Krypton Report. And this, I think, will go up. This will go up tomorrow. And that will be the actual 10th anniversary of Man of Steel. And you'll see on YouTube my crossover event with Nerd Culture as we go back through and rewatch Man of Steel. We thought a live rewatch would probably be the best way to go because James and I had already done a commentary. Just him and I, and of course we talked about the film. So a live rewatch was just a way of redoing it with people. Well, but hey,
yeah, and I'm sad that I couldn't make it. So it's just something exciting, you know. It's it's my favorite Superman movie. It's a big event. It's a big anniversary, 10th anniversary.
Yeah. So now we're gonna jump into Ruby Spears, episode 2, The Fugitive from Space / The Supermarket. Ooh, ominous. It has a 6.9 on IMDb. As the scientists try to decide which pair of aliens is a cop and which is a prisoner, the bad guy hides eggs which will destroy the Earth in Fugitive from Space. And then the second part is Ma Kent undertakes a shopping trip with baby Clark in the supermarket. I don't know why I've never really liked that expression, the supermarket. It just sounds weird, especially in a Superman series.
I was going to say, there's nothing supermarket in Smallville.
Yeah, it's literally like mom and pop's grocery.
Yeah.
But what did you think of episode 2? Let me pull up my notes here.
Not so bad. The story, they kind of give you a little mystery, kind of like whodunit, who's the bad guy here. Try to give you subvert your expectations on who's probably the good guy, who's the bad guy in this scenario.
Yeah, the more monstrous looking alien, of course, is the one you assume is the bad guy, but it's actually the good guy.
Yep.
We do get a Star Labs reference here. So we have the
interesting concept of Superman being tricked to use the radiation from his X-ray vision.
Oh yeah, dude.
To hatch the eggs.
I thought that was neat. Like, he's very gullible, Superman. It was, the prisoner that was actually with Superman, while the actual police person, the good person, was with Lois. So, my favorite of this episode is that Jimmy gets fired every Friday, but the chief forgets he fired him, so Jimmy just keeps coming to work.
Yeah, I did like that at the very end. What are you doing here? She's like, well, there's a first time for everything. And he's like, get back to the dark room where you belong. It's like, see, he does forget. Yeah, it was hilarious.
I have in my notes, like, this, I wrote down, I don't remember why, but, excuse me, the speed of sound is 761 miles per hour, and that's Mach 1. The speed of light is 186,000 miles a second. I don't know why that was in my, because I know they were talking about that in there, but I was like, I had to do the math research. So, I thought that was interesting, but those eggs hatching were pretty creepy.
It was interesting, the way they hatched, and they're like very powerful. The little freeze breath puts them right back into their cocoon.
Just got to make it cold, man.
Yep.
That's the sound of my freeze breath. Okay. I'm an idiot, but whatever. The second half is Ma with Clark at the grocery store, the supermarket. And it's funny because, I mean, it's all these things where, like, you definitely know there's something up with young Clark. Because, like, he quickly takes Ma tells this one random girl, like, she tells Clark he can't have a candy bar. And this little girl thinks she's yelling at her, so she goes to her mom. And then Clark takes a whole bunch of candy bars and shoves them
at super speed.
Yeah, into the cart, and the mother comes back yelling at Martha for yelling at her daughter, which is just kind of funny, you know, that would actually happen. And it was Clussy Clark stacked all the bean cans straight up and was like on the top shelf. They were trying to get him down.
He was up on the rafter. He was up on that beam up there. It was like, how did he get up there?
So it was and then she's leaving and like everyone's watching her and looking on her. I feel like the cans aren't the smartest tools in the shed in these homes.
But clearly nobody in Smallville is. I mean, that boy flew all over the store and nobody seen him.
I guess people just don't ever look up.
So, I mean, it's not New York. You know?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. They're in a small town. Why would they look up in the sky to see clouds? Psh, clouds. All right. So episode 3, By the Skin of the Dragon's Teeth. Not teeth. Teeth.
Teeth.
At the babysitters. Luthor discovers a curse when he tricks Superman into excavating a treasure in By the Skin of the Dragon's Teeth. A babysitter tries to control young Clark in The Babysitter. How appropriately titled. Yeah. This episode I found hilarious because Lex purchases the Great Wall of China. Like that's a thing.
Yeah, because the Chinese government would do that.
So I was like, oh, that's something you can do. He buys it. We have a scene of Clark falling in the water earlier and being all awkward. And the one that got me is when they're headed to the Great Wall and Clark, he faints. To turn this, he's like, oh, like, I'm like, it just isn't believable. Like, it makes Clark to be such a goob. Like, no one would like this guy. No one would ever want to work with this guy or take him seriously if that's how he was.
Right. Well, you know, the inspiration for this version of Clark is Christopher Reeve.
Even though this is the first post-crisis, like, medium change, you know, of Superman. So it's interesting. I did notice that Jimmy wears ties and not bow ties. Just thought that was interesting. I think they need to bring back the bow tie.
Yeah, this Jimmy has a little more. I don't want to say confidence or swagger, but something along those lines.
He does. He's not as much Gee Willikers.
Yeah.
He's not. He's more like, you know, reporter Jim Olsen, not cub reporter, little man Jimmy Olsen.
Right.
Little
like,
Jimmy.
Like, yeah, like he wears his big pants until somebody with bigger pants shows up, and then he's like, oh, I'm sorry.
It's just kind of funny. But Lex tricks Superman into saving his friends, which would then dig and find the treasure that Lex now owns because he purchased the Great Wall of China. So the government gets nothing. He removes like a tooth statue thing from and it comes to life and starts attacking. And
he removes the dragon's paw wall grill.
Yeah. And it starts turning people to stone, and Clark quickly, somehow Superman makes a stone statue of Clark so he can be Superman and Clark. So, like, they're carrying this stone statue around, like, trying to protect it because they think it's actually Clark.
Yeah, I thought that was funny.
And they drop it in the water. And they're like, oh, Clark. And then he shows up at the...
change back, and he's going to come up out of the water, like, practically drowning.
And Lois was pissed. Because she has a whole tangent at the end of just yelling at Clark for what he put her through and everything. But what I did find interesting is when Clark's fighting, as Superman, he gets his leg hit and it turns to stone.
Yeah, he's affected by magic in this. So it's magic that actually brings the golems to life. That's the best way I can describe them, as golems, like statues come to life. And they're attacking him, and he's weak. He actually can't fend them off, so he kind of flies them up into the air so he can spin them around and throw them.
I do want to just add really quickly that Janina just saw the news that I had sent her about the Batman, and I got a WTF response with an exclamation point emoji on the picture. See, she doesn't get it either.
Like, that's a long time.
We'll probably keep bringing it up every episode. Like, there was a counter on Twitter. It's like every day would post how many days till the Batman 2. And like, it went from counting down to like counting up. Today, like, it all of a sudden jumped to like 800 and some days. I'm just like, dear Lord. People, like, your daughter will be like almost 6. Or 6 by the time it comes out. It's crazy.
Oh, man.
Your daughter will be like Sayla is right now by the time it comes out. That's scary. But anyways, we now go to The Babysitter. And it feels like in each one of these family albums, they are aging Clark up a little bit. Like the first one was like baby, year-old Clark, maybe, not quite toddler, but we're teetering there. The next one's like little kid. This one's like a little older little kid, like maybe like 5, maybe 4, 5. But the Kents leave for some, reason. And they leave Clark with the babysitter, Melissa. And the funniest is she tells Clark, he's watching TV. She tells him like to turn it off at 8. And she, tells him how to tell time. Well, then he uses his heat vision to weld the clock hands so they can't move. And she comes back like, is it past 8 yet? And of course, as Clark's watching the TV, it starts talking about the 9 o'clock news.
Yeah, that's when we saw him hit it with his heat vision. Like, oh, Clark is he's a little brat.
And then he's like, cookie. And she's like, no, go to bed, and tucks him in. Then he flies out and back into the house and sitting on top of the fridge eating cookies. He's like, I got one left. Want it? He's like, no. And then Clark takes the TV up to his bedroom. The old, like, 300-pound TV built into a huge piece of furniture. The kind that when it died, you just put your new TV on top of it. And, kept going. I will admit that we did do that as a child. Just saying.
Oh, yeah. I had a TV on top of a TV when I was a child.
Things were different back then. They were square, they were boxes, they were whole furniture sets.
Oh yeah, it wasn't as easy as just lifting it and taking it out and getting rid of it.
Yeah, now they're so lightweight, it's ridiculous. Okay, talking about TVs, we got Solomon a good 10-inch, maybe 12-inch flat screen TV at a yard sale for $1. I'm gonna let that sink in for a second.
For $1.
She just got rid of it for $1. I hooked up my Roku, I gave it to him, and it works fine. It has one HDMI port in it, it works fine. It's exactly perfect for what we wanted to put in his room.
Nice.
Yeah, dude. It's one of those things.
Oh, that's a steal, man. It doesn't matter how long it lasts. A month or 2 years.
And when she was like $1,
you got your money's worth.
I looked at her like $1. She's like, yeah. I was like, okay, here. I gave it to her and took off before she changed her mind. I'm just like, I'm going to take it. If it didn't work, we'll take it outside for target practice.
Right.
The only thing is the remote was so corroded where they left the batteries in it that even with a wire brush, I couldn't get it to work. So I just pitched it and I'll buy a universal remote. But then it ends, or the girl calls her boyfriend and she's trying to get him to come over, but then the Kents show up, at the end. And they're like, was he any hassle? No more than any other boy I babysit. I'm just like, whatever. But, one thing I was going to point out about the episode was Lex's assistant, Jessica Morganberry. Like, we need to do a whole episode based on, like, Lex's assistants. And, like, who was invented for movies and who was from the comics. You know? So, I think that'd be kind of fun to do. Because, like, Mercy Graves was invented in Superman the Animated Series. And then she carried over to some live action stuff. But I don't think they've ever really done her really well yet.
Nah, not really outside of animation.
Yeah, like the BVS version was horrible. And what do you call it? The Titans one wasn't bad, but she could have been better. And then, of course, on Smallville, Lex had different assistants, and Tess Mercer was kind of a mixture of Mercy Graves and what do you call it, Lena Luthor. But then Mercy Graves did appear on Supergirl. They did do a version of Mercy Graves, because then they made Otis Graves.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Right. And then we did have Miss Tessmacher on Supergirl as well. So I'm pretty sure Miss Tessmacher was a movie invention compared to like comics.
I'm fairly certain.
Because I don't think I've ever had any. And then, of course, where I just, Kitty Kowalski was in Superman Returns. And I don't remember her in any comics. Like, it's just interesting. We might have to do a deep dive. I don't know. But those are the 2 episodes of the Ruby Spears series as we're catching up on things. Getting our Supermaning on. Da-dun-da-dun. We are now going to go into Superman and Lois episode 11. So, that is Complications. James, if you didn't hear that. Complications. If an Avril Lavigne song came to your mind, you old.
That was not the case.
Good.
But I am old.
You're like, James is like, I remember a song before that with complications in it. But the summary is Clark helps Lois prepare for her procedure, but must leave the boys with her to help John Henry and General Lane track down the Mannheims. John Henry and Nat butt heads over her desire to help Mateo, and Bruno's plan goes awry as Pia's condition worsens. First of all, the episode opens with basically Clark talking to Kyle and telling him. And Kyle makes a reference about good thing he didn't laser vision him back in high school for something dumb he did. And I thought it was pretty cool. Kyle was cool about it. And Clark says, you got to keep the secret. That's what we ask and everything. And he's like, you're Superman. And then Clark, busts out and leaves. And then it leaves Chrissy and Kyle talking. And then Kyle
what does he say? He's like, he still says, what? Call me Clark?
Yeah. Because he says Superman. He's like, just call me Clark.
Yeah.
And then Kyle gets really mad at Chrissy for how she reacted to his, thing about where he found out there was a superpowered person. He's like upset that she lied to him and made him feel stupid. But she's like, you understand now. Like, I was just trying to keep the secret and keep this. And he was kind of a D-bag. What do you think?
I mean, yeah, I do think he was a little bit of a D-bag about the way that he treated her. Granted, yeah, I mean, it's not good. It wasn't good for her to make him feel that way. Mm-hmm. Even if it's for keeping the secret, but also, I mean, maybe she could have done better by it, but honestly, keeping the secret kind of comes to be the first thought, and she's new at it too. So like covering isn't something she's used to. I thought like he acted a little bit harshly. But it was actually nice to see him come back around later on.
Mm-hmm. And yeah, it's kind of bookended, the episode with at the end. There's a Kyle before the stinger, but he apologizes to her for how he behaved because he got a really great scene with talking to Sarah just about the sadness, and he talks about how the sadness took him and issues that he had, and that's what led him to drinking and everything, and how the sadness in her and how that works, and she doesn't have to go down the same path as him and all this, and what to look out for. And she tries to have a conversation with Lana earlier, and Lana's like, I'll call the doctor, get the doctor on and everything. And yeah, it was a nice little family moment because Sarah's an idiot teenage girl, and I say that just because she so badly reminds me of girls I knew. So
I think the payoff, like this season, the family dynamic, talking with her, helping her, not fall back down into that pit that we first found Sarah in, when the show started. I think this payoff was worth some of those family moments that I know, like you and others have felt a little less strongly about.
I don't mind them I don't mind them, but at the same time, I'm like, sometimes I think they've been written a little bit better, and it's like, who are we here to watch the show for? This isn't the Kyle Cushing hour, I don't want to fall into Flash territory. Okay, I don't think we are there, but I'm just saying, don't want to go down that hole. Don't want to fall down that. So that's kind of the Cushing's storyline in this, right?
I mean, Sarah gets a job as a waitress at the diner that they always go to.
The only diner in town.
Yeah, the only diner in town. So something to help her focus, give herself a little bit more purpose.
I'm looking for
starting with the little things is what Kyle said.
The quote here. Hold on one second. Where'd my notes go? Hey, notes, where are you? Earlier Jordan says something where him and Sarah are talking. He says, "You're only sorry because I saved you." When she was sorry about how she acted and everything towards him and stuff. I thought that was a very strong line from him to her.
Right.
"You're only sorry because I saved your life. Pathetic earthling." It's like, he didn't say all that. That's just me joking. So, all right. Who should we move on to next?
Let's see. I mean, the Lois story in this episode is I mean, it's important. It's been building up the entire season, but she has her mastectomy surgery. And the reason, I mean, her story is so small, which is driven by just complications caused by Pia and Bruno Mannheim, which involves Superman and Steel and Natasha. So, I mean, they're kind of all lumped into one. I mean, I guess it's kind of just start there with Lois and then
well, fine. They all
go from there.
They all have dinner early in the episode from Bambuza. Is that what it is?
Bazumbas, yes. They have a party for Lois.
Because of her sense of humor. From Bazumbas. Couldn't actually went to the restaurant? No, because it's probably so far away. They had to, get takeout. Because the budget, is easier to do takeout than it is to be in a restaurant.
Yeah, it's called catering. Just bring it home.
Yes. Bazumbas is where you'll find James hanging out every day of the week. Just joking. Just joking. I have to edit that out.
Okay.
James like, shut up, dude. But so then we go in, she's having her surgery, and Jordan starts to have a panic attack. Just seeing his mom there and everything they're saying. And he starts to lose control, but not only is he losing control, what else is happening, James?
His X-ray vision is coming in.
And I thought that was awesome because I totally forgot he didn't have X-ray vision.
The effects they used were pretty cool.
Yes.
They did a lot of different levels, like where he was looking through people, like he was looking at John, and he was seeing John at different like levels, like no skin, skeletal, and then like completely disappearing.
Yeah, and then John's like, close your eyes. He's like, they are closed.
Yeah, he said, I can't close my eyes. And he's like, they are closed. And that's when Clark's like, your X-ray vision.
Yeah, Clark comes out because they're prepping Lois, and he has to come out there with them. And I like seeing Jonathan get Jordan to calm down and working through it. And then, of course, later in the episode when they're performing the surgery, and the nitrogen tank starts to fall, Jordan's able to see it because of his X-ray vision and pops in, saves it, and gets back. I thought that was awesome.
Yeah, that was pretty sweet.
The power goes out, and their doctors are like, we can reschedule, or we can go ahead and try. And Lois is like, I'm doing it. So I had to psych myself up to get here. I can't do this again. And they decide to start, and Clark has to go, and the boys stay there with their mom. And so that's going on. Meanwhile, they're searching for the Mannheims. What I find interesting is they're searching everywhere. They're looking in their house, but not underground, like underground the house, because that's literally where Bruno's research facility is.
Yeah.
And the Mannheims are leaving an underground secret subway, not the sandwich place, James. That runs underneath. That's a joke.
Yeah, it actually sprung an inappropriate joke on me in my head, but I kept it quiet.
All right, nice. I don't even know I have no idea where it's going. We're just having a good time here. It's what we do: hang out and have a good time. And Pia, the cure didn't work. She's starting to relapse, and she's getting more powerful and unable to control her powers. And Bruno gives her another injection, and it doesn't work. It works for like a split second, and then it doesn't work, and she just starts going crazy. And Mateo starts to run to find help. And earlier, Natasha was at the place, and John had shown up, and they had a little conversation. She had left one of their speaker things, that contact them, and then Mateo.
Yeah, it would identify Mateo, and it would alert her that he's present, so she could come to him.
I thought it was awesome because it was like Natasha Irons will be arriving in 3, 2, 1.
Yeah, that was pretty dope.
And he's like, it's my mom. And then John shows up, and then Pia gets outside, and she's heavily convulsing and, causing damage. And of course, Clark shows up. Excuse me. And eventually he's the only one that can get close to her enough. And he gives her the line about it's okay to let go. And she whispers something in his ear, and he flies her up and into the clouds. Then we just see like a huge ripple of like an explosion. And then he descends with her and brings her back to Bruno and Mateo on the rooftop. And it's a really powerful scene. It was a good episode. It was a really powerful scene. But I think my favorite part, I'll be honest with you, is in one of the next scenes. And that's when Bruno is sitting down with the DOD and basically says, I'll give you everything as long as you drop all charges against Mateo.
Yeah.
And he looks at John Henry and says, "Look out for my son. And I know you will because of the man you are." Like, that was probably my favorite scene. So, and because of that right there is where I feel like you could kind of write something where John takes Mateo and Nat and leaves town to start over somewhere else. Like, going back to our season 4 discussion. So I don't know. I'm just saying, like, that's why I feel like he can naturally and organically leave the show. Not that I would want him to, not at all.
Right.
Because I'm still waiting for him and Lana to get together. I thought they've been sprinkling some seeds here. So anyway.
Yeah, I think it was this episode, right? Where they all got together and him and Lana got to have a little bit of closeness.
Yeah, I mean, it's sprinkled enough there that when the moment comes, it won't feel out of left field.
Oh, absolutely not.
It'll work. And, one thing that I thought about with the whole season 4 thing is you could do something where, like, it's almost like the Cushings and the Ironses aren't in the same episodes. So you could reduce cast, You just have like, you have the same actors, but they're just diminished a lot in the season, Yeah. So that you can focus on other things. And like we talked about the one episode where Superman wasn't even in it, but we didn't even care. We were just in the episode. Like, good writing, which this show has proven it has. I think with 10 episodes, it's going to make a killer season.
Yeah, I think it'll. I think it'll be really good for the story, for the characters.
Mm-hmm.
This show's already really good at giving you a mystery, and if it's left for an episode, it's answered in the next episode. It's not something that drags on for 3 to 6 episodes.
Speaking of that, this episode actually begins pretty much where the last episode ends, where Clark's looking, and seeing this, like, the city under attack, but can't find where P is at. And then what I liked was this is episode brought back the strong, powerful music when they flash the title card. But that's, how they've done it. Like, they've basically built the sound down with each episode to where we had one that was completely silent, and now it's back. It was like, bum, 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 bum. I was like, yes. That's pretty pumped.
Yeah.
So I think that's it. I started taking detailed notes, but then the kids came in and we paused it. I had to run and get dinner and do some other things, and then came back like over an hour and something later, and Janine just wanted to cuddle, so I couldn't get back to my note taking, so I just watched the episode with her.
Yeah.
When your woman wants to cuddle, you drop what you're doing and you cuddle. Okay?
Yes, sir. Yeah, I think that's it. I mean, we get Bruno arrested, Pia dead. Well, the only thing we don't have is the stinger, really.
I'm about to say, it's the stinger. James,
Yeah.
why don't you talk about the stinger?
So the stinger is, everything's been destabilized. It's like an earthquake. Pia was like generating an earthquake with her sound. There's a lot of destruction and everything. And down in Bruno's underground lab, if you want to call it that,
the Bruno Cave.
I was going to say, it looks like a subway platform that they're just like, all right, this is where we're going to do our experiments. We don't need a lab. We don't need clean environment. This is where we're doing it. Anyway, in there, we get Bizarro alive and awake and coughing. So.
And then his skin starts to move.
Yeah, his skin is like bubbling and moving. Like, not sure what that's about.
Yeah, so time to hypothesize, James.
Yeah.
Is it Doomsday?
Is it Doomsday?
That's what a lot of people have said, kind of going back to how he entered in the series being very Doomsday-ish and being Bizarro, And
well, if they anticipate season 4 being the last, maybe.
well, we knew that they said that this season ended on a cliffhanger. So that would be very horrible if season 4 didn't happen because of this cliffhanger. My other thought is it going to be something where maybe it's mutating him to be more of the big oaf hulking Bizarro and like makes him even dumber, like dumbs down the intelligence at all, and he just becomes more of this giant.
So you're saying that he's turning more into what we have seen in like the animated series,
right? Because the whole thing with Bizarro was he was just talking backwards. He wasn't saying like me am and stuff like that, but like this is like a de-evolution of him or something because they made his DNA unstable,
right?
And
he was killed with with X-kryptonite and beaten to death, right?
Yeah. So
so the only thing that could be is the experiments. Exactly. And what are the experiments going to create out of him?
So they've done a great job of subverting our expectations and making us guess, what's going on. So,
you already know my biggest annoyance with that. The when Bizarro came through.
He was huge.
He was huge. He was in this suit. He was huge. It was the containment suit. It was totally a throw. It was totally just to mislead you. But it was done in a way that doesn't make sense. And so in a misleading way, it's like, no, you just like totally misrepresented what this character was going to even be.
It's like
as a way to try to, throw off the audience.
Exactly. But now comes to the part in the show where we reach into our short boxes and long boxes and our boxes and pull out some comics. James, what comic are you pulling out today?
Well, the one I do have open in front of me is The Adventures of Superman John Kent #4.
Yeah. The one that says on the cover, "The Super Sons Reunited"?
Yes, sir. So we open up on Earth Injustice.
I love that. Earth Injustice. We're not even going to get a number, just Injustice.
Yeah. Friends with Sinestro, more like co-workers. Sinestro's been helpful. Says, "It's good to have you here, John." They're leaving the planet to go take care of something. They're going to the moon of Titan. And only the people who can, survive that trip can go with him. John says, "I want to go home, but I don't know how, and I can't leave this Earth the way it is." He sees Luthor. And he follows Luthor to Luthor meeting with Batman and the Insurgency, delivering Ultraman, and speculating that Ultraman's tech is what he had planned to weaken Superman to kill this Earth Superman. Batman automatically, don't let him leave. John is so I guess the Lex of this world is the same as ours. Another born liar obsessed with tearing down Superman. I think a wizard made Superman cute. That's funny. I forgot about that line.
They're awkward lines, but
right. But they all go on the offensive. They go to attack John, and they're all really strong. Why are you all so strong? Batman just hits John, like pile drives his head into the ground. And John goes electric blue on him, on everybody here, and blasts everybody off of him.
Which is awesome, because it throws them all off.
Yeah, and then Batgirl goes to attack him, and he says, "Bab, stop. You know me, and on my world, you and Nightwing are together. You have a puppy called Bitewing. Harley says, well, that is objectively adorable. And then Alfred shows up, and why don't we all take a moment to calm down here? So they're having tea.
Because of course that's what you do.
Yeah, of course. With Alfred, you have tea.
I mean, for some people, you have a beer. For Tyler, you have a cherry Coke or a Zoa. For Alfred, you have tea.
Oh, yeah. I love the moment here because he's like, are you all right, young master? Yeah, it's very good to see you. Because Alfred is dead on his Earth.
I know. I'm still not over it.
Yeah, Alfred's always been there, man. That's a hard thing to take.
I know. Years. I don't know if it's years ago at this point. I can't tell, but I theorized
it was years ago
that I know. I'm saying that I pitched if you were to do another Batman movie. I think this was before the Batman. Of course, it was. The emotional string that Batman and Robin did correctly was that they worked on the idea of losing Alfred. That's where you would go with a movie.
Says, John, I know how bad this looks. It looks like you're planning to take down Superman by stealing technology from a corpse. Okay, I hadn't fully considered how bad this looks.
Yeah. He's like,
okay. But I promise I was a great friend to Clark before his fall. I have tried to steer him away from the path he's on many times, and I have remained by his side in an attempt to limit the damage he can cause. Said, we could use your help. He said, you want me to fight with you against my father's? So he's not your father. Clark murdered his child. Which, at this point, this is at least 3 years into Injustice. So, Batman's been fighting a war this whole time.
Yeah, you said that because we were trying to pinpoint where it would take place in the.
Well, so in this book, they do talk about how that Superman killed Green Arrow, and that how he killed Black Canary, and the world witnessed that. And the death of Black Canary was at the end of year 2, I'm pretty sure. So if that's already all taken place, this is at least year 3 or farther. And it's before year 5. So it's year 3 or 4.
That's why we keep James around, people. He knows these things.
But here it says, Catwoman says, I'm as angry as anyone, but let's not misrepresent what happened, Bruce. The Joker drugged and tricked Superman into killing Lois. So I love that. He's fighting a war because at this point, Clark is a murderer. Not of his own child. That was simply an accident, a manipulation. But at this point in this story, Clark is very much a killer. And I think it's good to have in this book, especially for John being an outsider on this planet, to have somebody to refocus on what happened, because they can't misrepresent the seriousness of the situation. But I think John really puts Bruce in his place a little bit. It says, and I bet his friend Bruce Wayne was a beacon of compassion and support when this happened. I think he called him out because it is one of the things that was really tough in the beginning of Injustice, especially in year 1 when Superman killed the Joker. Batman really kind of drew a line in the sand right away.
Yeah, he did.
And that Superman crossed that line. He really didn't. As soon as he crossed that line, he wasn't there for him to try and help him through the situation. Once he crossed that line, he kind of already started seeing him as an enemy before he was one.
Mm-hmm. It's true.
But whatever problem you clearly have with your Batman, you have no problem with me, Harley. He literally punched him in the face. John says, I know about Dick Grayson. Did you push Damian away when he needed you? Like when Batman kind of steps in his face. He's like, yeah, that's what I thought. I guess Superman was right about that at least. Says, Luthor, I won't say anything to my dad, Kal-El. Don't worry, there are two sides here. Your side has Alfred and Batgirl, which tells me almost everything I need to know. But I'm not leaping into a fight without investigating a bit more. So I love that on this Earth, he even thinks that Babs and Alfred are on the right side.
It's a big kind of it's a big thing, a big get, so to speak.
Yeah. If they're anything like their Prime Earth counterparts, then there's a certain sense of morality, compassion, and a sense of right and justice on your side.
Mm-hmm.
Damian confronts John. Where were you?
The whole Damian John thing is an interesting dynamic.
Yeah. You don't know me. Oh, I know you. And he rattles off some stuff here about Dick Grayson, about losing him, how he would never do it intentionally. That's the dismissive sound you make when you know someone's right and you don't want to admit it. This part here kind of got me a little bit, where he kind of got in John's face and left a tracker on him. Like that would have, to me, that strikes me as something John would have expected from Damian.
Yep.
Unless
it's going to play out. Unless it's going to play out where he knows and he wants Damian to follow him.
Yeah. So John takes off. He flies to Gamora and he starts talking with Jay Nakamura, hoping that he is just as compassionate and as honest with him as he thinks that Jay would be with him. His Jay would be with him.
Which is so interesting because, just with the Damian thing, like it's alternate versions. So, for all you know, it could be complete opposite. We've had Earths where it's the complete opposite,
But we also do have this version of John. This version of John, he's been written so well. He's very good at reading people. He's very good at believing and giving everybody a chance. This Superman, even more than Clark, is willing to take that first punch if it means finding out the truth, and never having to throw a punch himself.
It's a good way of saying it.
Like this Superman, he never rushes into, almost never. He's had emotional bits throughout his stories, but almost never is he to rush and certainly to persecute anyone without having all of the information. And I think that's writing, that's really combining Superman and Lois into one character.
It's true.
So he has a nice conversation with Jay. He hears some information about this world, and he's going to trust him. There's a knock on the window, and Damian comes in. What did you talk about? What did you tell him? In my opinion, John isn't going far. In my opinion, John let Damian follow him because he knows Damian and he knew he put a tracker on him. And John's going to be here in this next issue and not let anything happen to Jay.
Yeah, I agree.
I think that is what we are going to look at in the next next issue.
All right. And then our next comic for the week is Dark Knights of Steel, number 11, the penultimate issue. I just like using that word, penultimate.
It's a good word.
But take us down this road, Mr. James.
Take us down this road. So this road, we have the all of the advisors, Lois, Constantine, and Harley, discussing, talking, kind of coming up with their own plan. Cal and Bruce are happy. Like Bruce reveals to Clark that he is his half brother, and Clark is very happy to hear that, even though he knows that there are issues to work out. His first instinct is to hug him, and he's happy for him. They discuss Alfred, and he believes Alfred to be exactly who he is. He knows about kryptonite, or at least the meteor that fell from the sky that can hurt them, because he was stabbed with it. And the White Martians are in possession of the meteor to create weapons, which I do like how they use that it can't be easy to make weapons out of this material, because it is a Kryptonian mineral, and it can't hardly be damaged or, cut or converted.
You make a spear, something sharp and pointy.
Yeah, or, a sword. Something sharp and pointy. Protex shows up to John Jones, who is tied up and imprisoned with the lasso, so he can't escape. He's bound. They have a discussion and how he is going to kill him. But in the time where they were talking, he was able to alert Clark and Bruce, and they were able to bust into the cell and fight Protex and use their heat vision. Bruce uses his heat vision to hurt him, but he escapes through the wall using his matter shifting abilities. The kingdom is preparing. It has 3 armies. It has the Amazonian army, the army of storms, and the L. They are in the kingdom of the L's. But they order fire everywhere, because Martian's weakness is fire. They order fire everywhere. Every room, every candle, every room has to have a candle burning. The Lady of the Forest provided all the fuel we need, which is pretty cool. I love how Ivy kind of shoves out all of the fallen trees for firewood. That was pretty cool imagery.
It is.
Soldiers of 3 armies who were all enemies, kind of residing in the same kingdom. Queen Diana and Zala dug a moat that they filled with oil, and they lit it ablaze. So they made a moat of fire around the kingdom.
Sounds lovely for swimming.
Right? He says, is there enough flame to keep them at bay? The whites are coward. They will not face this, but this cannot burn forever. You need to be ready for their attack. Here Clark says, I know you. He says, read my mind. Says, I don't understand. How can you feel that way? Says, while holding this, I can't lie. Yes, you kept something from me, and it hurt me. But I understand why. You thought I'd see you as I saw so many others as monsters, and I am sorry that you felt that way. I will not judge you by your appearance. I will not punish you for your abilities as I have so many others. This is you were grieving and you were protecting your family, protecting the family you had left. He says, that is no excuse. From the moment my parents died, you have stood behind me. I would not be who I am without you. I may not have known who you were, but I know you. I am grateful and I love you.
Mm-hmm.
So,
great speech. And then they go and free Ollie.
Yeah, it's I've realized our enemies are not in this dungeon. There is an enemy out there, an enemy to us all. They plan to take us and enslave the world. I'm sorry for my actions. You will all be pardoned and compensated. I am releasing you from your imprisonment. And Harley says, just the people who deserve to be released. Violent robbers and murderers will stay in prison. And I'm not sure if that would be Calendar Man or Zaz.
It's Calendar Man.
Is it? Okay. He's like, nah. This is a good interaction here, though. It says, and where do I fit into this? Cal says, you murdered my father, but you are not a murderer, Oliver Queen. I saw the truth of who you are on the battlefield. You were used. You were trying to save the world. If we're going to succeed against the enemy, there needs to be an understanding and forgiveness on all sides.
That's the best.
Yeah.
He says, Oliver says, you are no monster.
I did try to tell you that.
And then we have Waller and Queen Lara fighting and arguing. Yeah.
Releasing threats, enemy armies camped inside our city freely. She says that she had people slain and dead that they had to bury because of those armies. Laura says, the shapeshifters are here to end all of us. We will join forces. Waller's, I believe you are making a mistake, Your Majesty. Harley says, it doesn't really matter what you believe, General. Your queen has issued a command. She says, you're grieving, but an alliance is our best chance.
The next little section here, I don't know if this is to me, I don't know if this is one step too far.
But them getting a crystal and creating a Phantom Zone projector?
Yes.
Well, they do have the technology in the ship. So it's a crude device, but they have the technology in the ship, so I don't know.
Yeah, that's just like where I'm like, it could have already had one in the ship, or I don't know, because like we see them pouring metal and cooling it, and she's holding this thing that looks like just a circle with, two handles and everything. So that's just the one where I'm like, maybe too far.
Well, we'll see how they use it in the next issue.
Yeah, and then the last little section here.
Yeah, Waller and Deadshot. Says, I will not allow more of our people to be harmed, Deadshot. Do not worry, I'm in control. We do this for the kingdom. She says, you endangered my people. Little meat sack, you dare to speak to your superiors in such a way. Be careful, your entire species is almost extinct. You shouldn't throw your life away by laying a hand on me. There really aren't enough of you left. And he says, you think you can threaten, and as he attacks her, he ignites into flame. She says, I did warn you. He says, stop this. Impossible. The spell of protection has been triggered. I made a deal with a demon. Hellfire cannot be extinguished. Do not cross me. You and I had an agreement and a plan, Protex. I will create another opening for you. We will succeed, but only if you follow my instructions from now on. And I was not surprised that Waller is having her own agenda and going against her queen and conspiring with these shapeshifter villains, because clearly she already knew that they existed.
Yeah.
And everything up to this point, was planned in part by her.
So Waller, you suck.
She sucks in every universe.
Yeah, she does. All right. Well, that concludes this week's episode. James, where can people find you online?
You can find me at SupermanRed_KR on Twitter, where you find most of my or a lot of my movie and DC posting over there, and I'm just James Cole III over on Instagram, where it's more of family and exercise.
Yeah.
And some DC stuff. I share our podcast stuff over there.
James likes to exercise.
Oh, yeah. I love exercising. I love to work out.
Thank you for listening, and remember,
Look up in the sky.
we just want to say if you've enjoyed this podcast, please check out other podcasts on the Press Play Podcast Network. $1 a month, you'll get extra special content that you don't get on the main show, like movie commentaries and whatever else comes out of our mouths. So check it out, patreon.com/Krypton.